Welcome, beloved friends. I am the Reverend Eileen Wiviat, acting senior minister of this church, and this is Reverend Karen Mooney. Next to me, we're keeping a safe distance, and I'm needing to mute my microphone. Hold on one second, trying to figure out how to do that. Pardon me. So many things to consider in this moment. Apologies for that. Here with Reverend Karen Mooney, our newly hired Congregational Life Director, who couldn't have come at a better time as far as I'm concerned. I'm so grateful for your presence. We're sitting here in this beautiful and sturdy sanctuary with a safe distance between us so that you can see this sacred space and be reminded of the permanence of community and the enduring flame of our faith, which will light our way through this difficult time. We're joined virtually by Reverend Karen Gustafson, our interim minister who wisely decided to stay in Duluth this month. We've been connecting daily for online meetings as we prepared this service and have been making decisions about our building being open. As you should have read by now, we will be having virtual worship like this through at least April 5th, and will be closed to meetings through at least April 6th. Our annual rummage sale, which is typically the first weekend of May, is also postponed to a date to be determined. So please stay tuned on that. We want to express our deep gratitude for Liz and Stephen Eason, who care so lovingly for our building every day and every week. They have been here deep cleaning every corner and every surface of every room. This might be the most disinfected building in all of Evanston. Thank you, Liz and Stephen, for your love of this community. And we thank Adam Goff, our tech guru, who has made this service possible and has made himself available to those who need guidance on how to connect virtually. Adam, you are precious to us. We thank Kathy Underwood, our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, who put together a wonderful set of resources for our families and young people to continue their faith development at home. A link to those resources is in the description on this YouTube channel below. And thank you, Sandra Robinson, our Executive Operations Director, Vicki Hellier, our Music Director, Gregory Schifrin, our pianist, Vicki Deebly, our staff accountant, and Jessica Mize, our communications coordinator. Each of you has been an integral part of this staff team, making it possible for us to keep the fabric of our spiritual community woven together. Whether the Unitarian Church of Evanston is your spiritual home or you are seeking comfort and connection in this uncertain time, we are grateful that you are with us. We are an inclusive community and a welcoming community, seeking truth and love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us matters and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. In this time when we must be physically isolated, it is even more important for us to remember our oneness, our kinship with one another, and to hold each other in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. Our hearts are lifted in gratitude for the many people who have offered help, who are reaching out to others and bringing food and comfort to each other. It fills my heart and brings me to tears to witness your steadfast practice of beloved community in creative and kind and wonderful ways. If you are or know someone who needs to be reached out to, if you need food or contact through a phone call or an email, please let us know. You can reach me at ewiviat@ucevanston.org, and the minister's emails will appear at the end of this service. We and the staff and the board of trustees of UCE are here for you in whatever ways that we can be. If you're joining us for the first time and you'd like to be connected to our community through our email newsletter, you can check out the link in the description below or reach out to our communications coordinator, Jessica Mize, at admin@ucevanston.org. We are holding in our hearts those who are sick, those who are isolated and afraid and vulnerable. How lonely and how difficult it is to keep our distance from one another, especially when we are in need of comfort. And what a blessing that we can remain connected in these ways. We are planning multiple opportunities to stay connected, and we'll be offering a Zoom connection room next Thursday. We had our first experiment with that yesterday afternoon, and it went very well. Next Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Look for information about that on our website and through email communications. As we begin our worship service today, I share with you these words from Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Lynn Unger, who wrote this week a poem titled Pandemic, which has, as it were, gone viral. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. Welcome to worship.
Please join me, if you will, in the words of the chalice lighting. The flaming chalice, a light in the darkness of uncertainty, a beacon of hope, a symbol that steadies our wandering vision, a reminder of the community that holds us and the many Unitarian Universalist congregations who share our fears and our hopes for the health and safety of all. So please use the musical interlude that follows this now to find and light a chalice or a candle at your own home, and let our separate fires kindle one flame. Consider creating a simple altar. Find a cloth in your home, a place, and draw the elements, the earth and the wind and the fire and the water. Claim the space that holds you as sacred space.
Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. Oh, faith is the bird that feels the light, the bird that feels the light, the bird that feels the light. Oh, faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. The bird that sings and sings when the dawn is still dark. When the dawn is dark, faith is the bird that feels the light. Oh, faith is the bird that feels the light, that feels the light and sings, that feels the light and sings, that feels the light and sings and sings and sings when the dawn is dark. Oh, faith is the bird that faith is the bird feels the light and faith is the bird sings when the dawn is faith is the bird is the bird. Oh, faith is the bird that feels the light. It is the bird that sings when the dawn is dark. And sings when the dawn is still dark. Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. Oh, faith is the bird that feels the light, the bird that feels the light, the bird that feels the light.
Please join me. Please join me in these familiar words by James Villa Blake, Our Covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no caravan, love of despair, cause is no yet again, love of despair, cause is no yet again, love of despair, Conqueror, yet again, lover of living, wonders no caravan, love of despair, causes no yet again, love of despair, causes no yet again, of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, 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 ever come, whoever you should lover, worshiper, ours is no caravan of despair. We are a caravan, yet again come.
Today's Time for All Ages is the story The Three Questions, based on a story by Leo Tolstoy, written and illustrated by John J. Muth. There once was a boy named Nikolai who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he told his friends, but I don't always know the best way to do that. Nikolai's friends understood, and they wanted to help him. If only I could find the answers to my 3 questions, Nikolai continued, then I would always know what to do. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? What is the right thing to do? Nikolai's friends considered his first question. Then Sonia the heron spoke. To know the best time to do things, one must plan in advance, she said. Gogol the monkey, who had been rooting through some leaves to find something good to eat, said, You will know when to do things if you watch and pay close attention. Then Pushkin the dog, who was just dozing off, rolled over and said, You can't pay attention to everything yourself. You need a pack to keep watch and help you decide when to do things. For example, Gogol, a coconut is about to fall on your head. Nikolai thought for a moment. Then he asked his second question. Who is the most important one? Those who are closest to heaven, said Sonia, circling up to the sky. Those who know how to heal the sick, said Gogol, stroking his bruised noggin. Those who make the rules, growled Pushkin. Nikolai thought some more. Then he asked the third question. What is the right thing to do? Flying, said Sonia. Having fun all the time, laughed Gogol. Fighting, barked Pushkin right away. Then the boy thought for a long while. He loved his friends. He knew they were all trying their best to help him answer his questions, but their answers didn't seem quite right. Then an idea came to him. I know, he thought. I will ask Leo the turtle. He has lived a very long time. Surely he will know the answers I am looking for. Nikolai hiked up into the mountains where the old turtle lived all alone. When Nikolai arrived, he found Leo digging a garden. The turtle was old and digging was hard for him. I have 3 questions and I came to ask your help, Nikolai said. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? What is the right thing to do? Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled. Then he went on with his digging. You must be tired, Nikolai said at last. Let me help you. The turtle gave him his shovel and thanked him. And because it was easier for a young boy to dig than it was for an old turtle, Nikolai kept on digging until the rows were finished. But just as he finished, the wind blew wildly and rain burst from darkened clouds. As they moved toward the cottage for shelter, Nikolai suddenly heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda whose leg had been injured by a fallen tree. Carefully, Nikolai carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg with a stick of bamboo. The storm raged on, banging at the doors and windows. The panda woke up. Where am I? She said. And where is my child? The boy ran out of the cottage and down the path. The roar of the storm was deafening. Pushing against the howling wood and drenching rain, he ran farther into the forest. There he found the panda's child, cold and shivering on the ground. The little panda was wet and scared, but alive. Nikolai carried her inside, made her warm and dry. Then he laid her in her mother's arms. Leo smiled when he saw what the boy had done. The next morning the sun was warm, birds sang, and all was well with the world. The panda's leg was healing nicely, and she thanked Nikolai for saving her and her baby from the storm. At that moment, Sonia, Gogol, and Pushkin arrived to make sure everyone was all right. Nikolai felt great peace within himself. He had wonderful friends, and he had saved the panda and her child. But he also felt disappointed. He still had not found the answers to his 3 questions. So he asked Leo one more time. The old turtle looked at the boy. But your questions have been answered, he said. They have? Asked the boy. Yesterday. If you had not stayed to help me dig my garden, you wouldn't have heard the panda's cries for help in the storm. Therefore, the most important time was the time you spent digging the garden. The most important one at that moment was me, and the most important thing to do was to help me with my garden. Later, when you found the injured panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg and saving her child. The most important ones were the panda and her baby. And the most important thing to do was to take care of them and make them safe. Remember then that there is only one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one you are with. And the most important thing is to do good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear boy, are the answers to what is the most important in this world. This is why we are here.
Well, good morning. I'm Karen Gustafson, and I am the interim minister for UCE this year. Many of you know. I'm coming to you remotely from my home in Knife River, Minnesota, which is near Duluth. And I will be maintaining my commitment to serve as a part of your ministry team, along with this wonderful creative staff. It has been a long tradition during the UCE worship service to offer a time for the sharing of joys and sorrows. In this time of great uncertainty, we may be less able to articulate at times the specifics related to those feelings. And so we are inviting you to share concerns and gratitudes. Please write your concerns and gratitudes on the YouTube chat, which will be public unless you've already shared them on the Google Doc ahead of time. And these will be read aloud after further reflection. Right now, we offer this musical interlude to give you a chance to offer your submissions. We we gather here together in a time of shifting sands. The exact nature of the evil that stalks us is not readily apparent. There are some things that we know. The COVID-19 virus is a threat without bias. It is a threat that seems to be indifferent to all that divides us, indifferent to race or religion or political stance, to class or income or education or sexual orientation or gender identity. Humanity, all of us, and our children and our brothers and sisters across the street and across the globe are being called together by a tiny organism to look at every aspect of ourselves as individuals, as families, as communities, as cultures and systems of all kinds. The stories that are emerging are shaping a new story of an old truth that we are all in this together, for better and for worse. We, all of us, everywhere, are exposed in our deepest fears and our greatest hopes. For better, for worse, breathe in, breathe out. Fear and hope, breathe in, breathe out. Safety and sharing, breathe in, breathe out. Isolation and community, breathe in, breathe out. Concern and gratitude, breathe in, breathe out. Since last Wednesday, your UCE staff and leadership have logged dozens of hours on Zoom conferences and phone calls and emails with each other and outside medical and denominational resources, and with the most vulnerable among us. We are endeavoring to communicate with the beloved community as best we can, as Eileen said in her introduction. Yesterday, when Karen and Eileen and I hosted our first virtual community gathering, which we plan to repeat soon on a scheduled basis, those attending shared some concerns and gratitudes as you are being invited to do today. Shared concerns will help us to be aware of each other's needs. Shared gratitudes will hold us mindful of the gifts of life that we have, which, in the words of hymn number 128, build the common good and make our own days glad. Breathe in, breathe out. Karen and Eileen will now share those concerns and gratitudes that have been offered today.
We start with some messages that were sent to us ahead of time through a Google form. This was an anonymous sharing. I'm thankful for all the spring flowers popping up everywhere, which help me stay present and which give my children something beautiful to explore while we have impromptu at-home preschool.
From Renee Hoff, gratitude for how UCE continues to handle the decision to suspend church worship and activities. Even more important than feeling like a prudent decision, it has felt like a loving decision. Thank you, UCE staff, for your extra effort in making it so.
From Christine Peters, in memory of Raisa Landor, an inspirational, dedicated teacher who loved learning as she loved her students. I was privileged to know her as a colleague at New Trier High School and as a member of our beloved Covenant group. Raisa always deepened the conversation, shared her joy for life and laughter, and kindly brought a thermos of hot tea for us, in sorrow for her daughters and in gratitude for knowing one who embodied the virtues she taught.
From Martha Holman, I'm grateful for this religious community that sustains me in good times and difficult times. I'm thankful and heartened to see so many UCE folks stepping up to help us as we navigate this new part of our journey together.
From Donna Schiller, this is a shout out of thanks to everyone who has helped complete voter postcards for Wisconsin. UCE has written and stamped over 1,600 cards. We truly are living our values of respect and love one card at a time, and vote love on March 17th.
And these from our chat line from Melanie Kitchener. My surgery was canceled, good and bad.
One more from our online forum from Wendy Drake. I am very grateful for the UCE staff and community that I am just starting to get to know.
Martha Holman, thanks for our choir, and actually thanks for all singing.
Marianne Griebler, I am so grateful for this community and the sense of belonging, even in anxiety and isolation.
Janelle Britton, I'm grateful for our wonderful UCE team and all of us participating and connecting here today, as well as those who can't make it here today.
Karen Courtwright is grateful that our doctor identified the cause of her lingering illness and recovery seems imminent.
Rob Grieger says, Marianne, ditto.
Sandra Robinson, my heart is bursting with gratitude for our staff, board, and congregation.
Ellen Rieger, this is so beautiful, it makes me cry.
Diane Yost, our glorious choir.
Martha Holman, me too, Ellen.
Sandra Robinson and choir, salve for the aching soul.
Helen Bemis, please keep my collected classmate Steve in your arms and thoughts as he is in the final hours surrounded by family and friends.
Andrew Fisher, glad we can sing.
From Helen Bemis, a college classmate, was what she was saying. Sharon Lang,
Shannon.
thank you.
Shannon
Lang, sorry about that. Thank you all who worked on the service today in this time of uncertainty. This is what I needed today, to be reminded that we are part of a community, even if and when we can't be physically together.
Donna Schiller, I feel more closely connected to each of you, and for that I am grateful.
Candy Buckley, this is just beautiful. I haven't been able to attend for a long time, and I am due to having MS and no funds for taking a lift to and from. I wish we had this option all the time.
Amy Staton, grateful for the tech that allows us to be together, grateful to be in this community.
Martha Holman, praying for our UCE patients. May he and their family be safe and secure.
Doug Erickson, joyous to have Karen.
Joan Taylor, I'm loving the approach of spring and the emerging flowers and the opportunity to view the greening of our world.
John Siegel, the approach of spring gives me hope too.
Shirley Adams, Helen Bemis, may your friend feel nurtured and at peace as she prepares to transition.
Sandra Robinson, our ministers are a blessing.
Shirley Adams, Candy Buckley, welcome back to UCE.
From Mary Dudek, Karen, that was a particularly poignant and comforting meditation. Thank you. I'm so glad that Adam and all were able to make this service happen.
From MJ Snowden, thank you, Adam, ministers, and the whole team for your innovation, creativity, and passion in bringing this all together.
And from Candy, Shirley, thank you so much. I love this church. Be well, friend.
And one final one from Meredith Hayden, ministers and staff, all of your effort to make this happen are deeply appreciated. Such a comfort to feel connected in this way. For all of these that are written, for all that remain in the silent sanctuaries of our heart, we hold on and hold with in this time when we feel separate and maybe physically separate, and be reminded through this gathering together that indeed we are together, even if not together in its body.
Amen.
May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This hearth, though all the world grow chill, will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in. May not
I have been mindful every day that this moment would come for me to, when I, buoyed by my own faith and the support of my beloved colleagues, would appear before you to offer some measure of reassurance and comfort. I've been inspired by your messages and your wonderful expressions of concern and gratitude, by words that have been chosen and shared in many venues over these past several days. Yesterday, I was here for um, uh, the rehearsal of this um, time and read the story that Kathy shared. And I was moved by the reminder that to remember then that there is only one important time, and that time is now. The important one is always the one you are with. The most important thing to do is good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, dear one, are the answers to what is most important in this world. This is why we are here. Of course, I would need in this case to change the one to ones, the you to you plural continues to balance my attention with those of you who have lived, with those who have lived longer in my heart, and those long and deeply invested in my well being, my family and close friends. But there is no doubt that the one important time is now, and that is a hard time. Recently, I became familiar with a term called normality balance. According to Wikipedia, normalcy balance or normality balance is a tendency for people to believe that things will always function the way they normally have functioned, and therefore to underestimate both the likelihood of a disaster and its possible effects. I share this not as a judgment upon any of us who may have fallen prey to such a bias, but as a description of what we are now being forced to consider as the effects upon us as individuals, as families, as communities, as cultures, and systems of all kinds that are being affected by this pandemic. As a religious community, we are committed to rally our spiritual, emotional, physical resources to attend to those effects as they continue to present themselves, often in totally new and unsuspected ways. There is an odd tension right now between urgency and waiting. And yet it is in the waiting that we can assess both of the emerging issues and gain the strength and wisdom to attend to them in ways that hopefully will call us to our best selves. In the face of such questions as, do I have enough toilet paper? Many of us are feeling moved in this time of waiting, for we know not what, to consider also the existential questions. What is the difference between needs and wants? What do we need to survive? What can we do without? It is a chance to consider with our friends and family what we take for granted, what we have come to expect, to think about how our wants and needs are determined from the outside rather than from the inside out. It is an invitation this time to lift up the relationship between the individual and the community, and how assuming individual responsibility serves the community. And ultimately, it is an opportunity to look with humanity at the vulnerability to forces outside of our control and the real and indifferent power of nature. I'm not here to cast aspersions upon the healing and redeeming aspects of nature that are so central to many of us as a source of spiritual nourishment, listed first among the sources of our faith tradition, the direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures that moves us to the renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Yet I am forced in this moment to acknowledge that this virus, regardless of its source, is a force of nature, a highly contagious and often fatal disease for which science has yet to provide sufficient treatment and vaccine. Unlike our evangelical brothers and sisters who are also lacking, we are also lacking a belief in a intervening God who is punishing us or might intervene to save us. And yet we must talk about this within the context of our own faith. For several reasons that are embedded in our principles and in the sources of our living tradition, we are called to look for the questions central to how we might approach this difficult moment. We might look at our second principle, the second of 7 principles that are grounding us in our Unitarian Universalist tradition. Our second principle is to affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. As I say so often, we are, many of us, people of privilege. Many of us have resources that could help us to prepare responsibly for this pandemic. Before Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans, for example, many people of privilege got out their cars or got on airplanes and they left. They did that because they could and because they had places to go. This would have been more just and equitable, perhaps, if they had taken as many poor people with them as they could. But staying would have been irresponsible because it would have been an added burden to the already overburdened system. Many did return in the aftermath, as well as many people of privilege from other places, to try to restore what was lost by those who had to stay because they had no choice. Justice and equity is about responsible use of resources. What does that look like in this kind of crisis? Our fourth principle speaks of the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. In the face of this principle, it is incumbent upon us to be informed and to take seriously the precautions of social distancing and voluntary quarantine. And our seventh principle speaks of respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. Respect does not involve only the ways in which we treat the web of life, but also for the way that we are treated by it. This means to me that we take seriously the power of nature to destroy. It means that we take seriously the ways in which our choices impact the whole. It means that we support one another in our beloved community and beyond to use our resources in ways that sustain and uphold life. In this fallow time, this time of uncertainty and unfamiliar ways of engaging the world, may we claim a deeper relationship to the sources that nourish us. May we use the resources of our beloved faith community to nurture our spirits. Wherever this moment leads, we will find our way with love and courage. May it be so.
Because we remain a vital part of the world and our community, and because we continue to need one another in the blessings of community, we take this time to invite you to text your donation to our shared plate. We share half of our loose plate collection this month with UU Advocacy Network of Illinois, building power among UU congregations in Illinois and putting our UU values into meaningful, concrete, far-reaching action towards social justice. You can read more about UUANI on our website, and we invite you to give as generously as you are able. You may also consider going to our website or sending in a check if that is easier for you. But we invite you to continue to be as generous as you are able. We close our service today by singing together the closing hymn, Come Sing the Song with Me. And the recording will play, but we invite you to sing along.
We extinguish this common flame to mark the end of this time of gathering. Let us hold one another in the larger light that we create together from glimmers of hope, beams of kindness, beacons of gratitude, and the bright promise of love. Dear friends, take courage. The way is often hard, and the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Be safe, be well, wash your hands. Is it a wrap?
I think so.
Okay,
Nice job.
everybody,